Hello class and welcome to this 100% all endings covered clock tower walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and let me tell you, it takes guts to make a horror game for the Super Famicom, but it takes skill to make one which is genuinely scary, and that is precisely what developer Human Entertainment achieved here in Clock Tower. I played this for the first time about a decade ago when I was house sitting for a couple friends of mine. Just me alone in an empty house. Well, me and a couple cats. No, Fluff wasn't one of them in case you were wondering. And this game genuinely shocked me at how creepy it is. I definitely closed and locked the door to the bedroom that night and had nightmares about an 8-year-old boy carrying around a giant pair of garden shears. If you've played this before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, stay tuned, this is going to be fun. We're once again kicking off our annual tradition of doing walkthroughs on spooky games all October long, and we're beginning with arguably the scariest game ever to be released on the SNES. Although strictly speaking, Clock Tower never received an SNES release, with it being a Japanese Super Famicom exclusive, but the fact that it's been so well known amongst Western gamers for decades is a testament to the cult popularity of this horror title. In terms of difficulty, Clock Tower isn't actually too bad. Yes, the mansion can seem confusing and certainly overwhelming at first, but once you get a feel for its layout and randomized quirks, it becomes much more manageable very quickly. Add in the fact that you have unlimited continues, allowing you to pick up from the point at which you died without issue most of the time en route to achieving one of the 9 endings, and I'm going to give Clock Tower a 4 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to biting down on your controller. Like I always say, when you're dealing with one of these point-and-click style adventure or puzzle games, it's difficult to handicap because if you've got this walkthrough in hand, you'll have no problems whatsoever. So, speaking of this walkthrough, we set out to make the definitive 100% Clock Tower walkthrough to show you how to easily attain every single ending this game has to offer, starting with the best. Gary's got some tips for dealing with the infamous Scissorman. Blaze is going to recap the requirements for getting each ending after we give you their respective walkthroughs. And later on, after we've experienced the mansion and in-game story in its entirety, Fluff is going to supplement what we've seen and learned with some added context and background on just what the heck is going on in this disturbing horror title from 1995. We have a lot of walkthroughs to get to within this walkthrough, so let's run the intro and get into this Clock Tower walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, as we begin a new game, let's get some context as to what's going on here in Clock Tower with the intro. Raised in the Granite Orphanage, Jennifer and her friends were adopted by nice people who didn't mean to do them any harm. Okay, we were wanted as adopted daughters. Usually how that goes, it happened in September. Earth, Wind, and Fire jump into my head at that line, but not the right vibe for this game. Enjoy the lovely sounds of nature, class. This will be the last time we hear them. Laura, hurry up. We want to be there before sunset. Miss Mary? Yes? Why are we walking when I know for a fact you have a car? We'll find that car later, but from now on, what kind of place will we be living in? It's the 5th time you asked. I'm starting to worry about your short-term memory, Jennifer. It's a very nice place, though. All right. I'm satisfied until asked the 6th time. We're almost there, see? Pan over to the creepiest-looking mansion, complete with Clock Tower there on the left. The titular Clock Tower, namesake of the game. This is Laura. What a huge place. She's not lying. This is foyer 1 of 2, class. It's a massive mansion. Yeah, the main hall's gigantic. Hall 1 of 2. I don't know why that translation makes me laugh. I gotta go get Mr. Barrows. I'm going to go get Mr. Barrows. Everyone wait here. And as Miss Mary slowly takes her time leaving, very slowly, let's take a quick look at the controls for Clock Tower. Now that we have control over the cursor, we can move it with the D-pad. Interact, we can talk to the other ladies with Y. Spoiler alert, this will be the last time we can talk to anyone in this game with that Y button. But that's how we interact with everything in this game. Panic button when you need it. You want to know what kind of guy Mr. Barrows is, right? No, I just might want to rethink that psych degree that you want to pursue when you grow up, Anne. All I said was, hey, Anne. We can tap that panic button with B when we need it in the game. Our little avatar portrait in the bottom left will begin to flash when you need to tap that button. You can pull up your inventory, such as it is, by holding down the A button and then moving the D-pad onto the item you want. As we talk to Lot now. I doubt I'll ever get used to this place. And cancel your actions that you began with Y with X. And then we can also run with L and R. And Anne's teasing Lot for feeling a little ill at ease in this house. I don't think I'm spoiling anything to reveal that those instincts are spot on. I'll talk to everyone a second time. Anne asks us to find Miss Mary. She's been gone for about 30 seconds. Everyone needs to chill. It's a big house, obviously, right? I mean, it takes a while to find anything in this house. And then lastly, for the second time, talk to Lot. She'll ask if she should go looking for a long time, 40 seconds in this world. But Jennifer, being the good friend that she is, she and Lot are especially good friends according to the backstory. We're going to go look for her ourselves. We volunteer. So we go off to the left. And about 5 seconds in, all of a sudden time doesn't move so slow. You'll hear a scream. Nice stereo scream, by the way, from the right channel. As we head back in thinking this might be a prank, the game is now officially begun. This is where the quick start picks up, and we are hitting the ground running here in pursuing the best and first ending here, ending S, here in Clock Tower. So let's go to the left as we take a look at the Briggs notes for this Clock Tower walkthrough. The keys to beating this game, very simple. Well, nowhere to hide, but mostly just follow this guide for the best and all endings and the most efficient route through this game. You can beat this game in about 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. So we'll talk more about where to hide in just a moment, but alright, I'm going to interrupt Past Professor for one moment before we get started. I'll be repeating some of this in the individual walkthroughs, but I just figured a brief primer was in order. Including the best ending, which we're beginning with, ending S, there are 9 endings here in Clock Tower. Ending S and then endings A through H. By the way, we've time-stamped each ending's walkthrough. We always do timestamps in our classes for what it's worth, but yeah, we always pin it as the top comment, but it can be very useful in this Clock Tower walkthrough. All but 2 of these endings, the final 2 actually, which are very quick and easy to get, but all of the rest require you to access a cavernous area beneath the mansion. In order to both get down there and get to the final area of the game, we need 3 items every single game. The first 2 items are very easy to grab. One is a bottle of perfume, which we'll find in the first 30 seconds of the game, in a drawer in a bedroom. The other is a black robe, which we can find in both the northwest most room in the mansion in a box on the floor, as well as in the phone room in a wardrobe/armoire. The third item you need is randomized each time you play. It will either be a staff, which is always in the music room, if your game features it, or the idol, which is found on a statue in the northeast part of the mansion if your game features that. I'll be showing you the most direct route to determining which item your game features and route to beating the game once we get into this main walkthrough for the best ending in just a second. But basically, if your game features the idol, to complete the game with it, you need to locate the library and check the second from the left bookshelf in order to actually pick it up from the statue and subsequently use it in what is known as the ceremony room. Conversely, if your game features the staff, it's a more involved process in which you need to get the insecticide from the same northwest most room, which you can get the black robe from I mentioned a second ago. Use it in the kitchen's meat locker to kill the bugs and get the gold key. I really know how silly this all sounds out of context, by the way, but then take that gold key and go into the phone room to get the silver key and use that silver key in a room known as the mural room and learn from the mural how you're meant to use the staff, then subsequently use it in the aforementioned ceremony room. Simple, right? From the ceremony room, you can access the underground caverns, where you'll immediately use both the perfume and the black robe to get past the guard dog, at which point you can go ahead and fulfill whatever ending the rest of your actions have set up, the actions which we'll be covering in the individual walkthroughs. So, speaking of which, let's get back to the start of the best ending walkthrough, ending S. Back to you, past professor. Make your first right in that long hall to enter this room. Check this box. Sometimes there will be a key here that we need. It's in one of two spots, so it's not in here, so we'll find it somewhere else. One of many randomized aspects every time you start a new game here in Clock Tower. Along with the layout of the mansion, that key changes places, and the item which you need to beat the game will alternate between two different items, which will kind of dictate how you beat the game. But come into this next room from that last room. Do not click on the mirror. You'll be killed. You can pick right back up where you died for what it's worth. But check the drawer right here for some perfume. Smells like Miss Mary. We'll automatically pick it up. You can check this framed picture on the dresser as well. Just a little foreshadowing. Something plot related later on. You don't have to, but if you click on the bird cage, you'll open it up and a parrot shouting some very disturbing dialogue on repeat will fly around. At this point, quickly move the cursor over to the right of the two beds, the one with the red cover on it, the red blanket, and just keep tapping the action/interact button of Y on it. Eventually, as you just keep tapping it, Jennifer will say enough is enough and wrap up that parrot. Like so. And the reason we want to do that is because now we can hide under this left bed as our first hiding spot should we be chased. If you try hiding under there as you're being chased by someone we're about to meet. Speaking of which, let's open this door. Jennifer will automatically stop here. You don't have to go in, but we gotta experience this famous scene. Not the worst idea to open this door on the right to buy yourself a little extra time. I don't know why she insists on closing it, so you can do that, but when you're ready, click on the shower here for Laura? Remember Laura, everyone, from the from Being Alive 4 minutes ago? Oh my goodness. Members of the class, let me introduce you to Scissorman. I always like Jennifer's reaction here. She's like, alright, let's see where this is going first. Clearly killed Laura, but let's see where he's going with this. It's not a thing you see every day. Alright, so now that we escape, we can either go right and hide under that bed, which I pointed out. It's a bit more efficient if we go to the left, actually, and climb this staircase here. You'll automatically run. I was going to make that as one of the Briggs notes, run when you're in trouble, but yeah, she will automatically. Save for stairs. I guess safety first. It's very easy to trip and fall on stairs, I suppose. I would say if safety first is your motto, maybe put yourself as far away from the troubled child with the garden shears, but anyway, climb the stairs here by clicking Y on them, and then run to the left here. I like to just tap L in this case to automatically move right to left. Come all the way to the left, and there's two different doors here. Sometimes it won't scroll all the way, in which case you'll need to back up a little bit and then come back. And once that camera pans over a bit to reveal that leftmost door, enter that. Click and Y on it, very quickly click on this first door here. And then very quickly tap Y on this box, and now tap B for our panic button. Since we see Laura's little picture down there flashing, that's always your cue to go ahead and tap that B button. Scissorman thinking, man, I really wanted to stab her. Oh well. And then one last Yeah, but I just... I'll stab her later. Alright. Alright, so, not even giving 30 seconds to make sure the coast is clear, we immediately climb back over. But don't worry, I'm here to tell you the coast is clear. Try clicking on that box on the left again, and she can't climb up this time, I guess without the adrenaline coursing through her system. So click on this box in the middle of the screen, and we have our first brush with a mechanic in the game which comes up a lot, where you need to click on one item or object before you can properly click on another one and interact with it. So in that case, if we had clicked the middle box before we tried clicking on the left box, she'd basically say, well, what do you want me to do with this? So, but now we climb over with that box and get ourselves the black robe. Before we leave, we can also grab ourselves, well, the rope in the background, but more importantly for our purposes, the can of insecticide down here on the floor. We can now hide in that same area anytime we're being chased by Scissorman, for what it's worth. Gary's going to give us a lot more intel on Scissorman a little bit later, but now that we leave, come over here and click on the bird's nest, and then click on the box after that. That'll let her know, oh, you want me to move the box to the bird's nest. Remember how I said that the key that was not in the box would appear in one of two locations? This is the other location. So we need this key. This will allow us to access the back of the mansion. I mentioned in the intro how the mansion can seem kind of overwhelming, especially if you're new to it. Once you get the feel for it, it's pretty straightforward. The layout is kind of simple. There is a curveball, and they do randomize, I think, about 6 of the different rooms and what they might be. So with that in mind, now that we have this key, the fastest way to proceed is to open this door right here. And there's a very good chance that we're going to hear a scream as we're passing through this hallway here. If you do, ignore it. Just keep going to the right. Something we'll talk about in depth as we move forward. All right, we didn't hear the scream. Sometimes if you move faster, just running through, you won't hear it. If we hung out long enough, I guarantee we would have heard it. But coming out of this door on the other side, go to the right. Again, I know a lot of it seems very confusing if you're not familiar. It's all going to make sense by the end. This is all going to be worth it. Trust me. But open this first door in this next long hallway. We're kind of on the back side of the mansion here. So this is one of the randomized rooms, this first door in this hall. It can be one of 5 different locations, this room right here. But being that it's this room with the cages, we're going to come over here to the counter. Try interacting with this dead crow to get yourself a cage key. And now, very key, no pun intended, is to use that cage key by holding down the A button, selecting the key, and then releasing, and then using that key on this back cage. If there's one major takeaway, one lesson to be learned from Clock Tower, aside from, I guess, run from evil children with garden shears, it's that parrots are bad, crows are good. We'll find out just how good a little bit later. The rats are optional. You can release them or not. But after you've done that, exit out here. And we're going to come into this very next room on this floor, in this hallway. This one never changes. This is always a child's bedroom. And interact with this little shelf right here. And you'll find yourself a key. And now we'll have yet another danger here in this house, as this doll will unaccountably come to life. So be ready to mash that panic button, B, once our portrait starts to flash. The evil doll, the possessed doll, will mix up the time at which it attacks you. Sometimes this scene takes longer, sometimes it's immediate that it charges at you, so got to be on your toes here. You'll notice that Jennifer's picture keeps changing colors, by the way. The color around her, yeah, it's really milking it this time. We doing this or not? There we go. I just mash that B button. And you'll survive the exchange. The possessed doll will not. You'll see our color went from yellow to red. There are 4 colors which Jennifer progresses through. Blue, into yellow, into orange, into red, finally. We can skip this door right here, by the way. We'll talk about that later. Skip that door, just keep going to the right here. The closer you are to red, the more difficult it is to fight off Scissorman, mostly Scissorman. But I find as we click on the gap here and then click on the board, that's the only way to get her to register that you want her to put that board over the gap. Well, you can very slowly rest by hitting that X button. I find if you tap the panic button fast enough, you can survive any situation. By the way, move the cursor over this statue here. Yeah, if no little box shows up to interact with, that determines which of the 2 items we need to complete this game. So we'll talk more about that in just a second. But open this door, and before we go over to the right, wait by this door, because there's a 50% chance that Bobby's gonna, aka Scissorman's, gonna pop out of that box. It could also just be a very buff cat. They say a black cat it's normally a bad omen, but I'm not so sure in this house where everything's trying to kill us. Well, certainly Scissorman, and that doll, and the mirror. It's nice for a change, but yeah, it's a very buff cat. I guess you gotta be swole to survive in this house as a cat. Something about Bobby just screams animal abuser to me, but anyway. Yeah, if it does turn out to be Scissorman, just run to the left and get back to one of those 2 hiding spots. But since we lucked out with the cat, although I guess strictly speaking, black cats are good omens in Japan, so never mind. This was a Super Famicom release. So click on this, after you move this cart out of the way, click on this back wall. She won't be able to do anything with it until you click on that board, and she'll smack it and it'll crumble, and then she'll be shocked as she walks away like, oh wow, thought I was just smacking that for no reason, but it actually did open up. So come on in here, and first interact with the wall. The air in this room is stagnant. Yeah, you could see this door was sealed over, this door on the right, from the outside. Marks are cut into this wall. I think someone was keeping track of time. Click on that folder by our feet, Mary's and patient's names. The name of the master of the house. Mary Barrows. Interesting. Check this chart here. 2 newborn babies, and then check this medical bag. A name's embroidered here. Walter Simpson. Our surname is Simpson as well. Jennifer Simpson. Coincidence? I don't know. Let's check lastly this corpse in the corner here. And she will automatically read the memo. Famous shot right here. Looking like Jennifer Connelly here by, kind of Labyrinth-era Jennifer Connelly. This is the 3rd day I, Dr. Walter Simpson, have been in here. I'll not last long. Before I die, I will record this. There are twin children who are a blemish on this world. When the lady was to give birth, I was called to this house. She gave birth to 2 demons. When they were born, they ate my right hand. They were ill, their bodies deformed. They should have died. Yeah, I think formula is more recommended for most newborns rather than right hands, but they lived. I should have tried to. Breathing is painful. The air in this room is already gone. They are in a cradle under the star. Jennifer. 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 So yeah, just to give you an idea of what we're working with here, class. This didn't happen in Super Mario World. Best my recollection. So that's dark. That's sad. We're bummed. But we have to press on. So us finding this secret sealed away room is necessary for achieving the best ending of this game. Actually, most of the best endings of this game, we have to come here ahead of doing certain other things in this game, which will make more sense as we move forward. But so, if nothing else, we now know the truth about Miss Mary. I mean, I certainly suspected something wasn't right about her before, but by the way, there was some rope in that room. There was also some rope in our hiding room. If we had grabbed that rope and gotten trapped on this side of on the right side of that gap right there, basically if Scissorman chases you and you run left to right, you'll jump that gap, he'll fall down, but then you'll be trapped there. So you need to use the rope, attach it to that first statue, and then you'll climb down, and that's how that goes, basically. But anyway, we go downstairs here, and we're going to go into this farthest right door. This is dead end to the right here, so this is the last door we can enter. So this is the library. If we were able to move the cursor on the area which I pointed out with that second statue above earlier, then we would come down to the library, click on the second bookshelf from the left, and that would allow us to grab the item off of that statue. So that's the order you would have to do it, and go to the library first and then click on the statue. But being that we do not have the idol in this playthrough, we will instead have to beat the game. It's always either the idol or the staff. And the staff will always be here if the idol is not upstairs. And you'll see up at the top here, we have the cursor here on the top of the screen. If we play the piano, Bobby likes to pop in on us from time to time. If we play the piano, he will drop in from that ceiling and try to kill us. So we're not going to do that, but I just wanted to point it out. I'm not sure why the mood to rock out some Elton John would come over Jennifer in this of all situations, but just want to mention that's what would happen. And another effect of getting the idol, if you do have the idol in your playthrough, Bobby will be hiding behind that curtain in place of the staff, and he'll chase you once again. A lot of scenarios where Bobby chases you. Alright, so this door is, in this playthrough, this randomized house playthrough, that door is nothing. That middle door is where we're going to end up eventually, and then this far left door, by process of elimination of all the different rooms which randomize, is the second bathroom, which will have a crate on the left which Bobby or the cat can pop out of. Alright, so now we're going to open this door here and take the downstairs hall, which will connect us back to the front of the house. And we might hear that scream. Waiting for it. Alright, it's coming. We have to come back here one more time to get back to that middle room of that hallway, which we skipped. Alright, so to beat the game with the staff, we've determined we have the staff in this playthrough, in this version of the game, this randomized version. So now that we actually have the staff in our possession, and that's the whole reason for going to the back of the house, to determine whether or not you have the staff in your playthrough or the idol. So now that we have the staff, we're going to come back to the front of the house, go into the kitchen here, and use our insecticide on the meat locker, I guess. If you open it without the insecticide, you don't get killed, but the bugs will bother Jennifer, and you'll have to come back, so. But being that we sprayed the bug, I'm not sure how Jennifer would just know to spray the meat locker right there, but it worked out for us. And we got ourselves the gold key. Calendar. Today's date is marked. Nothing sinister about that. We can open the fridge, but we don't need it in the best ending, which we're working towards right now in this walkthrough. If you go to the left, you get to the garage. We also don't need to go there in this playthrough. Alright, so now that we have the gold key, we can unlock this door or the door above it. These are the final two rooms which randomize, and these rooms are special in that the bottom one or the top one, the one directly above it, they'll always be the same two rooms. It's just the order swaps with each place. So the room with the phone is one of them. The other is sort of religious kind of library, if you will, which we will need to check out because we have the staff. We need to figure out something from that room and how to use the staff to access the final area of the house. We wouldn't need to go in that door. We wouldn't need to get the gold key even if we had had the idol in our playthrough, but being that we had the staff, that's just how it works out to be. Alright, so now we're going to open the door which is directly above that door, using our gold key, and 50-50 chance that Miss Mary's going to be in here, but we already know that she's evil, class, courtesy of going to that walled-off room where she trapped and ultimately killed our father. Yeah, there kind of is. You're evil, so make it a point to run away. If you're wondering, Professor, what happens if we don't know that Miss Mary is evil and we run into her in this room? Well, stay tuned, class. You'll find out as we do one of the other walkthroughs, but... Alright, so you can find another key on this glass right here. And if you try using the phone, then Jennifer will say something along the lines of, hey, it's not plugged in. I don't know why. And if you didn't get the black cloak, which we got in that hiding room, you can grab it from that little closet, which I just cursored over there. Multiple ways to get that. That's not an instance where it's in one or the other. It'll always be in both of those. So if you already got it from the other room, it won't be in there. But if you hadn't grabbed it from our hiding room, which worked out to be right next to that room ultimately, it's just on the far left of the house there on that top floor, then you could grab the cloak from that room. There's something else to be said about that room, but again, we'll save that for a little bit later. It's a lot to cover. In case you're not picking up on that. I'm sure you are, but yeah, there's a lot going on. So now we're going to use that silver key, which we just pocketed from underneath that glass in the gold key room, the phone room, to open the opposite door. As I said, it's going to be one or the other. Since we know the phone room was the top one, process of elimination, this is where we use this key. So we want to click on the mural first and then say, oh, something's covering it. Or better said, this bookshelf is covering it. So we're going to push the bookshelf out of the way and then see, hey, that looks like our staff. Actually, it looks like a flaming hot Cheeto to me, if I'm honest, but it's our staff. So now Jennifer knows to use the staff in the only room we have yet, I think, to explore. And you can check out the stuff on this desk over here for kind of some more information. It said something about the clock. We don't really need that in this playthrough, but that's something else we'll address later on in one of the alternate endings. So now that we have the staff, and we know how to use it by going into that door, we are now going to cut back through here, and darn it, I'm just going to wait for the scream this time if we don't hear it by the time we get to the end of this room, class. I need to show that this is what you need to do. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Never gotten through there 3 times in a row without the scream. So we'll just hang out, and then, there you go. Scream came from out. Actually, it sounded like it came from the right. So you can click on any of those windows, but that will drastically change our ending. And I guess I'll give it away. That will show Anne being murdered if you look out the window. But it's a very strange world here in the Clock Tower universe. And now we're going to go through this middle door, which we ignored earlier. Yeah, things are... It's some sort of philosophical truth in this world that if you don't see it happen, class, it didn't happen. So, I guess Laura's dead. I guess Anne figured it out for herself. So this is the vase like we saw back in the mural room. Let's call it the mural room like she did. And you can look around. This is strictly for plot right here. This is not necessary, but I'm just showing you. Cradle under the star, that's something that our father wrote on that note. So if you had the idol, you would place it right there in that cup that's right there on the shelf right here. And this will have the same effect as putting the staff into the vase. But being that we have the staff, let's hold down A, to bring up our inventory. Select it, and then click it right here on the vase. I realize I said vase and vase in very short succession. Just like to make sure everyone's included, however you pronounce it. So whether you have the staff to put in the vase, or you have the idol to put into that little cup there, this will create a trap door which you can climb down. And the only two items which we need from here on out are the perfume, which we got very early on, always in that same drawer in the bedroom, and the black cloak, which you can get, again, either from our hiding room or from the phone room. And funny how the perfect timing. You'd think we would have seen someone go down that trap door before, but so come over to the pup and put on your perfume. Smells like Miss Mary, and now pop on the robe, and then you can pass on by. The dog will kill you if you try to pass without having both of these items equipped on you. Just bring them up with your inventory and then click them on Jennifer. And now before we go into that cave right there, that's where she went ultimately, run over here to the right end. Remember who I said our best friend was at the start of this one? They got Lot too. Put here in some sort of sacrificial ritual. Don't worry, we'll bust some deserving teeth for Lot. She's a girl, by the way. I think some people get her mixed up, even though they clearly said adopted daughters at the start, but I think some folks mistake her for being a boy. But we're not all alone. We know that Anne's still around there somewhere because we refuse to look out the window and watch her die. So, therefore, she's not dead, class. Alright, so we're going to ignore this door here. Just run to the right. And this is all on autopilot for the most part. Just going over to the right here and... So remember that our father's note said that there were twins. There were two boys, and the portrait, the little picture that we saw, revealed that as well. We've seen Bobby, so that just leaves. Class, let me introduce you to Dan. Yeah. Might have been the one that ate the hand, I don't know. I don't know if they tag teamed it. Alright, so this is all on autopilot. It prompts you to hit the action button right there, the panic button, excuse me, with B. But I find you don't really need to start tabbing until you're midway through the water. Probably closer to that wall, but if you don't want to risk it, if you don't want to slide down this slope and get eaten by Dan, one, I don't blame you. I'm with you on that. Just tap that button. And for dramatic purposes, Jennifer will always slide down right there, but... And then once it stops flashing, you're generally safe from there, but... And then we just... Oopsie daisy. It's like slapstick. Alright. One cursed twin down. That was easy. Alright. That was just an accident. That was... yeah. That worked out. Alright, so now we can head through this opening here. Run to the end where you'll find yourself an elevator. And actually we unlock one of the... probably one of the lamest, maybe the lamest ending. By doing some different things, but we'll get to that a little bit later, but that happens right here. But... we're working on the best ending, so we have 3 options. Basement, which we're on. 1, which doesn't work. 2, which we're not going to go to. And 3. So hit 3 if you're going after the best ending. And then again, for dramatic purposes, who cut the lights? Bobby. He likes to peek in. I guess it's implied that he's chasing us. There he is. Come on, we know you don't go... He doesn't go upstairs. Tell me you're gonna climb a ladder. Alright, he climbs ladders. Won't go upstairs, but you'll climb a ladder. Alright, so Lot clued us in. We also read about it in the mural room. One or the other will teach you that if you turn on the clock tower, Bobby just will kind of go nuts and just fall to his death. Fluff's gonna teach us exactly what happened there a little bit later. But you'll see right there, there is a body there. And not just a body, an alive body. It's probably a better way of delivering that sentence, but but there's Anne. Not quite so dead, and be ready to tap that panic button class one last time. And what did I say? Crows better than parrots. I said we'd find out how good crows were later. This is how good crows are. They're saying, you don't mess with our friend, Jennifer. She's with us. She took care of Jerry. She's good people. And then Miss Mary will fall to her death. It's a little silly, but that was for Lot. That was for Laura. And now Anne and I promise you she seems dead. She's not dead. She's been through a lot. There is one variation I should mention on this ending. You can actually save Laura instead of Anne. To do this, just skip the bathroom where we saw Laura murdered and just keep going to the left into that second large foyer area. You'll see a cutscene where Scissorman comes in through the ceiling, murdering Anne. At that point, you can just go and hide in any of the spots that you want. Just keep playing the game exactly the same way otherwise. The only thing you need to do to ensure that Laura survives, sort of her version of not looking out the window when you hear her scream, is just not checking the armor in that phone room. And that's all there is to it. And then you can see Laura alive at the end instead of Anne. If you have a preference, to your call. Lot, unfortunately, is the only one who can never be saved, but there you go. Best ending here in Clock Tower as the two watch the sunrise. And now let's get that recap of the best ending for the first time with Blaze.
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky. Alright, as the professor mentioned in opening, I've got your recaps, or Briggs notes if you will, for achieving each ending as we complete them. Note that I won't be going over every detail of how to get to the end of the game like the professor is covering in the walkthroughs themselves, but instead I'm focusing on the boxes you need to check to achieve each specific ending, beginning with the best ending here in Clock Tower, Ending S. Yes, unfortunately, you can only save one of your 3 friends. That's the best you can do in this game. And unfortunately for all of you Lot fans out there, it can only be Anne or Laura. As the professor has mentioned, the friend which you see get murdered near the start of the game in either Anne or Laura dictates which friend you cannot save. Funny how that works, right? This means that if you see Laura's dead body in the bathroom at the start, then don't look out the window later on when you hear a scream, as that will confirm that Anne dies as well. Conversely, if you see Anne get drowned or pool stabbed near the start, do yourself a favor and do not check the armor in the phone room, as that results in Laura being confirmed dead as well. Beyond that, make sure that you find and explore the hidden room to learn about how Mary's, evil, before you roll a dice and running into her in the phone room. Also, don't forget to free the crow, because as you saw, they end up returning the favor and showing up in a murder of crows to murder Mary and save your hide. Lastly, be sure to check on Lot after you pass the guard dog before you take care of Dan, and go to the 3rd floor in the elevator. What happens if you don't check in on Lot before continuing on? Well, stay tuned. But there are your requisites for getting the best ending here in Clock Tower, Ending S.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Bring it back in for a quick recap. After every subsequent ending we achieve, you can check out which endings you've unlocked via that ending list option there. All we've done is S so far, so let's quick start to jump back into the game as we begin our Clock Tower Ending A walkthrough now. Quite a bit different from the Ending S in terms of how to achieve it, actually. This one kind of stands out on its own in a lot of ways in terms of how to go about unlocking it. So a lot of this is going to look pretty similar from the start. We're still going to enter this first room and look for the key in this box right here. The West Wing key, so we can access the rest of the mansion early on. See if we'll get it in the box this time or if we'll have to find it in the nest. All right, we got the key from the box. We're going to move right on to the adjoining bedroom now, once again, to grab ourselves the perfume. Trapping the parrot is optional, only if you plan on using that for a hiding spot is it necessary, obviously. Otherwise, you can just leave the parrot in its cage and just move right along. So one notable difference with how we're approaching the Ending A walkthrough is that we will not be entering that northeastern part of the mansion. We won't learn that our father's been killed in this house. Sadly, I suppose. I'm not really sure. Are we better off not knowing? Doesn't matter, I digress. The point is, as we grab that perfume, the point is we're going to want to enter that phone room where Miss Mary is without the knowledge that she's evil. And that's going to lead to, well, we'll leave that a surprise until we get there, but once again, very disturbing parrot, or maybe just a normal parrot that picked up some very disturbing language from Bobby. Possibly Miss Mary as well. I'm not sure Bobby says a whole lot, actually. He lets his garden shears do most of his talking. But it's nice to have this as an option for a hiding spot. This takes an awful long time. But let's move on. Once again, we'll go to the bathroom and find Laura. And once again, and Blaze will mention this, I'm sure, at the end as well in the recap, but once again, you have the option as to who you want to see at the end of the game, whether that's Laura or Anne. So in this case, seeing Laura killed here in the shower in the bathroom, we know that Anne is going to be there at the end, assuming we, once again, don't look out that window when we hear the scream. So a lot of the same rules apply here in Ending A. But yeah, that one caveat of we're going to want to go into that phone room before we know Miss Mary's true nature. Once again, making his entrance. Maybe he's just helping her get extra clean? I don't know. We don't know that she's dead. I mean, I'm sorry, we saw her, so yes, of course, in this world, that means she's dead. Just very much like Jennifer Connelly. Even just the animation around the eye right there. So you can see if you don't open the door ahead of time, you have a very tight window. Just make sure you're tapping that R button. And it's kind of random sometimes. I've played this many times, and let's hide in that bedroom. Since we went to the trouble of trapping that parrot. And there comes Bobby in from the right that time somehow. So let's click on that left of the two beds. Be very quiet, class. Such a happy child. Just gets his pleasure from the wrong things, unfortunately. Does that big close of the shears, just that, I really did want to stab her once again, but... Alright, so we're safe now. You'd think you might need to hang out here for a little bit, but now you can just pop right out into the hallway. Gary's going to talk a bit more about how to deal with Bobby in, well, once we get to one of the more repetitive parts of this. If we get the staff for this run again, then we'll bring in Gary to maybe talk a bit about Bobby, since we've already seen how to beat the game with the staff. But first things first, we still need some supplies. We still need ourselves the black robe. We need the insecticide as well, so we can actually unlock the door to the phone room with that gold key. Take your time, Jennifer. Yeah, she's got the urgency when she's on flat land, but going up and down stairs just can't be bothered. And yeah, the limitations, I suppose. Stereo's good enough. It's too difficult, or rather impossible, to tell where that ring is coming from. It sounds exactly the same to me, at least, when you're standing outside of these two doors in the main foyer right back there. It sounds the same, that ring volume, whether you're on the bottom floor or the top floor. So no matter where that room is. As we try to climb over here to get to the box, now we can move the box into place. Grab ourselves the robe, and then we'll grab the insecticide on the way out as well. Now, it's still not going to be a sure thing that Miss Mary is going to be in the phone room. It's still the, 50-50 chance, give or take. So for ending A, you're going to have to pop out and then go back inside. Although you can take that opportunity when she's not in there to pick yourself up the silver key. I don't anticipate that we'll need that rope for backing your way out of the northeastern area if Bobby chases you over there. So we don't need to check the nest since we already grabbed the key downstairs. But now we need to head down to the kitchen to get ourselves that gold key from the meat locker. Where do you keep your gold keys, class? I think we all keep our gold keys in our bug-infested meat lockers. And that's precisely what we'll be doing here. Also very important in ending A is to make an additional pickup when you're in the kitchen, and that is to open the fridge and get yourself the nondescript meat. Very important to grab the meat in ending A to save your skin. You'll find out why in just a moment. It's not absolutely necessary to have the meat. You can actually, I'll explain once we get there, but let's open the kitchen right now. Don't need to worry about running into Nurse Edna here for those who get the reference. Once again, click the insecticide on the meat locker here. So you can see it between the fridge and the meat locker right next to the calendar there on the wall, which actually, if you look at it, they have today's date circled. But anyway, yeah, in the little alcove there, you can grab a beverage, and if you click on it twice, then Jennifer will drink it, and there's a 50-50 chance of it either topping off your string, so you go from, I guess, in this case, yellow back to blue, or it'll knock you out and have the same effect as what we're about to do once we meet Miss Mary, but just wanted to mention that. So I misspoke, it's some very descript meat. It's ham. Specifically some ham. So now that we have the gold key and the ham, we're ready to test our luck. Opening up the phone room. Let's try it on this floor first. And you'll note the gold key automatically is just in the inventory without having to use it. All right, so it's unoccupied here. So we'll go ahead and search this for the silver key just in case we end up needing to use the staff later on. Again, as we covered earlier, the mural room is unlocked with the silver key, and you only need to go in that room for most of the endings, if you have the staff in your game. Being that we haven't been to the west wing of the house yet, we don't really know which we have yet, the idol or the staff, so let's just grab it for good measure. Let's head back in. All right, Miss Mary. Miss Mary, I don't know what's going on. There's a kid with a giant pair of garden shears trying to kill us. Laura's dead. Just, what are you going to do in this situation? You turn to the adults. Everything's going to be just fine. I guess Jennifer can't hear the ominous music. Very creepy. Maybe don't drink this music. So obviously, had we learned that she was evil from that room in the northeast room of the mansion, to learn that she killed our father and that she's generally evil, then we would just run from her in this case, or have the option to run. If we don't run from her knowing that she's evil, she'll stab and kill us. But in this case, we don't know that she's evil, so she just drugs us, and we wake up in this cell here. We're actually in a shed, which is out in the courtyard. To answer that question of where you are right now, very quickly give the ham to this man. Actually, as long as you don't talk to him, I think you're fine, but still, in the interest of getting this walkthrough over with, Simon Barrows. Oh, it's Mr. Barrows. You know what? You left us waiting for quite a long time, Miss Mary. She went out to look for you. Oh. Oh, maybe you're a little... Oh, okay. It's watching you. Watching you cradle under the star. Now we remember from ending S, our father wrote that same expression in his journal. One of the last things he wrote, the cradle under the star. He's no longer looking at Jennifer. So it looks like there's something in there. We can't get anything else. So, being that we gave him the meat, he won't attack and kill us, so that's good. Oh, it's Lot. It's our best friend Lot, everyone. We are. Alright, so you're a bit craftier in ending A than you were in ending S. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Alright, we're free. Agreed. Yeah, it turns out she's evil. On that run. Alright. That's just we all have kind of a funky run. Guess we never had actual parents to... Oh. Teach us how to run to finish that thought. So Miss Mary just shotgunned Lot to death. As Blaze mentioned, there is no ending in which Lot survives this, unfortunately. So the game makes you think you need to act quickly here. If you don't leave this room, Miss Mary won't come in. But pick up that 2x4 and lay her out cold. I probably would have grabbed the shotgun myself after laying her out, maybe shooting her in the head as well, but anyway, let's run. We are safe right now, actually. I mean, it's a relative term in this game, but move the box out of the way and we can now unlock this door, open this door, which was blocked off earlier. You'll recognize this as the Scream Hall, where if we hang out, we will still hear Anne screaming. Alright, so now we just carry on with the same process, the same ending essentially, as we unlocked or went through with ending S. We gotta find out if we have the staff or the idol, which we can generally figure out by either finding the music room first or finding the statue upstairs and seeing if we can mouse over it. Speaking of hovering the mouse over things, that first room on this floor, on the first floor, in this hallway, turns out to be the one which has nothing in it this time. It's always a floating empty room. This time it's that door. Alright, let's find out in real time if we have the staff or an angry, sadistic little 8-year-old boy. It's the staff, alright. I was going to say, when he didn't pop through the ceiling, I thought that might have been a giveaway. Alright, so it's the staff for us once again, and being that we just covered how to get to the end of this game with the staff, just a quick recap: use our silver key to access the mural room, uncover the mural to learn how to use the staff in the ceremony room. Also read the books on the desk in the mural room to learn about the clock tower, because Lot's not going to be there to tell us this time. Stop off in the children's bedroom to get the key to the ceremony room, fighting the possessed doll in the process. Also stop off and free the crow in the cage room. As we're doing that once again, let's bring in Gary to give us some tips on how to deal with the most violent member of the Barrows clan, Bobby Barrows. Gary, you got some tips, maybe an overview for us?
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters. Bobby, aka Scissorman, is the closest thing we have to a boss here in Clock Tower. After playing this game many times and studying his behavior, I've discovered Bobby has a lot of quirks to him. First, let's importantly talk about where he can appear. In addition to the initial murder of either Laura in the bathroom or Anne in the second foyer or pool, after any of which Bobby will chase you, he can also appear in a number of other rooms, oftentimes as a coin flip. These include the mannequin room, hiding behind the left center mannequin sometimes when you initially interact with it, and the second bathroom in the container on the far left of the room if you give it a few seconds before you leave. Sometimes it's a cat instead. And the crate in the room next to the sealed room, which once again could either be him or a cat if you wait around for a few seconds. And finally in the music room. His location in the music room will vary depending on whether you've got the staff or idol in your game. If it's the idol, he'll likely be hiding behind the curtain in place of the staff. If it's the staff, he'll likely drop down into the room from the ceiling if you decide to jam out on the piano for some reason in spite of all the murdering that's happening around you. Those are the places you can expect to run into Bobby, and remember that it's a coin flip as to whether or not you'll see him in those spots. And trying to trigger him in every location, I've had games where he's shown up in virtually every location, and I've had games where I've only seen him after the initial murder. So, what can you do once he's chasing you? First, it's worth mentioning that his locations make no sense. He can be right behind you as you enter the next part of a hallway, and you'll see him coming from the opposite side. As such, it's very easy to reset him whenever he's about to stab you simply by entering another area. When it comes to ditching him, there are two single-use places where you can do just that to him. One triggers automatically if he's chasing you as you come out of the left door, running to the right on the second floor of the mansion, provided you haven't put down the board already. In this case, you'll jump across the gap as Bobby falls down to the floor below, getting him off your tail for that chase. Be careful of this one, as he could still unaccountably appear in the crate in that top right room seconds later, as I mentioned, and you'll be treed without that board covering the gap and unable to use your rope to climb down to the lower floor. He can't come out into the hall, for what it's worth, so you'll be forced to go back into that room out of boredom until he kills you. Now, the other place you can ditch him is in the library. Click on one of the middle shelves and Jennifer will hide and topple the stack on top of him on the right, freeing you up once again. There's also a couple of reusable hiding spots in the bedroom near the start, provided you covered up the parrot. Otherwise, that parrot will give your position away. And the top right storage room on the left side. You can hide in either spot time and time again, and he'll never get you. You also find that when Bobby's chasing you, there's certain areas he won't go in, like the hallway which connects the front and back areas of the mansion, as well as the collapsed hallway on either side. He also refuses to climb stairs, so assuming you see him on the lower or higher level before you transition, he won't be able to come and get you. I've also found that if you wait long enough in those cases, when you go to the next room, he'll have just given up. You can typically defend yourself in most areas as well, especially the long hallways, or I guess in the center of most rooms for whatever reason. If you're near a wall, he'll automatically stab you, so be aware of that. Lastly, the garage is the strangest room when it comes to Bobby's behavior. The only place to take shelter here is in the hayloft, and once you're up there, your location seems to play a role in his behavior. I find that if you stay on the right side of the hayloft, right next to the ladder, he'll typically leave, but if you stop in the center, more or less above the car, he'll oftentimes climb the ladder, trapping and stabbing you. Most creepy of all is if you go to the far left of the loft and watch him seemingly give up, oftentimes he'll tunnel in through the ceiling, trapping and killing you up there. This will definitely happen should you push the ladder off so he can't climb up. There's another such area where Bobby will tunnel into the room in the library if you hide between the far left stacks when he's chasing you as well. Lastly, and perhaps just to prove once and for all how strange and probably glitchy Bobby is, I found you can simply run left toward the car, and if you stagger your movements, stopping and starting again, Bobby will get confused and or freaked out himself and just walk away. Probably way more information than you needed on a character who, to take a lot of suspense out of the situation, isn't really that dangerous. But there you go.
Thank you very much, Gary. That might be a record for longest time on camera in one sitting for Gary, but excellent overview, excellent tips on dealing with Bobby. Yeah, one of the more he's got a lot of quirks, that Bobby Barrows. And yeah, he gets around too. You never know where he might, actually you know exactly where he might pop out. Gary discovered it in full. So this time if you go to the right, you can see Lot, obviously not here. Lot was murdered and I guess subsequently hidden away by Miss Mary very quickly. I don't know if she dropped her in the pool. There's a pool just to the right outside of that shed. But so once again, we're going to take down Dan Barrows here in the exact same way. I didn't mention this while we were laying out Miss Mary with that 2x4, one of the more satisfying moments of this game. But if you hide in the crate, which is in the shed, right next to the cell, actually, if you try hiding that, she'll come in and quickly deduce where you are and fire her shotgun and kill you in that crate, essentially. It's pretty dark. One of the darker endings. Well, there's a lot of dark endings in this game. This is pretty dark. Pretty weird. Just think, maybe there's like a fun clown show for children behind this. Some sort of entertainer, Raffi perhaps? Something. Maybe the Wiggles? No. I mean, part of him wiggles, but oof. It's like a lot of parts wiggle probably. But yeah, also if you try just leaving the shed when Miss Mary has the shotgun there, and you know she's waiting for you to come out, she'll shoot you as well. So the only way to survive escaping the shed when she's coming for you is to grab that 2x4. And once again, for suspense, even though we know we're gonna get away, it's gonna cause us to slip down this little slope. We double our efforts. And once again, whoops. Every time. So simple. Just a bit of fire, huh? We're gonna get a lot of context and background. More on the twins, more on this game in general from Fluff here in a little bit, once we get into one of the other walkthroughs, which is gonna require some retreading, I suppose, especially if we get that staff once again. Call the elevator here, and once again we're going to the 3rd floor. Once again, they'll forget to pay their power bill. Once again, Bobby will make his entrance here, and we'll run from him. And as we climb the ladder, it seems pretty similar at first blush. Once again, we know Miss Mary is evil, so that's good. We got that going for us. Before we have our run-in with her, though, once again, we'll operate the clock tower to take care of Bobby. And that's one thing which is unique to ending A. Because Lot dies so much earlier and she's not there to tell us about the clock tower, that's why I mentioned earlier it's necessary to go into that mural room and read the books on the desk to learn about the clock tower. I'm not sure how Jennifer gleans that from those books, that this is what's going to kill Bobby, but can't argue with the results. Also different in ending A is that whichever friend you didn't see die earlier actually comes out to see you here. In this case, Anne, because we did see Laura hanging up in that shower. But it's nice, our reunion, brief as it is, short-lived as it is, unfortunately. And then, real bummer, Miss Mary comes out and murders whichever friend you spared through your actions. But once again, because we helped out the crow, they'll show up to help us at the last minute. Take your time, crows. Any minute, crows. About time. And they couldn't show up a bit earlier, but yeah, kind of lame that Anne has to die, or Laura has to die. Again, if you had gone just straight to that second foyer and seen Anne fall through that skylight and be murdered by Bobby, and then not checked the armor in the phone room, then Laura would be alive just for a second here at the end. So just that slight difference in the ending, but it's still, they're both ending A, just like didn't matter who you let survive in ending S. at the end of the game. Of course, they actually survived in ending S, but yeah, there's just slight variations on that ending, just like these are two slight variations on this ending. And yes, once again, Lot can never survive any of these, but there we go. And now, once again, the recap for how to unlock and achieve ending A. Let's bring back in Blaze.
I didn't want to give it away earlier, but ending S was in fact the only one in which you plus a friend can survive. Starting with ending A, Jennifer is unfortunately the only survivor, but ending A is also the only ending in which you at least get a sighting of the friend which hadn't died up to that point, though Miss Mary ensures that they sadly won't live to see the credits. Similar to ending S, you can control which friend at least makes an appearance here at the end. Once again, if you saw Laura die at the start, don't look out the window in the hallway after you hear a scream. This will ensure that Anne shows up to be killed in the end. Good for her. Conversely, if you saw Anne die at the start, don't check the armor in the phone room to ensure that Laura shows up to be killed in the end. I'm sure she appreciates it. Beyond that, ending A arguably requires the most work to achieve. You need to get the meat from the fridge and then, ignoring the hidden room, enter the phone room to run into Miss Mary to learn how she's evil in person. Exciting. You can also drink from the cupboard in the kitchen, but again, this is a split chance that'll knock you out instead of restoring your vigor. But all this to say, just make sure you've got some meat before you get thrown into the shed. Because Lot dies in rescuing you in the shed, you never learn about the clock tower from her, so make sure to read that short bit of information about it in the mural room. That's an easy one to miss, but if you don't learn about it, you won't get ending A. Lastly, remember to free the crow for this ending as well, and carry on to the end, taking the elevator to floor 3 to see the ending A play out.
Thank you once again, Blaze. Check back in with you at the end of ending B. But now we are moving right back on into the game as we begin our Clock Tower ending B walkthrough. So this is a lot more similar to ending S in a lot of ways. The one difference is that, sadly, we're going to make it a point to see both of our friends get murdered this time. So we're going to check in on Laura in the bathroom, and we're going to look out the window when we hear that scream to just confirm that Anne gets killed as well. And then we all know what happens to Lot. Apologies to all the Lot fans class. I did not mean for that to come out so glibly. But let's finally take a look outside now that we're encouraged to do so here in ending B to see what's actually happening or what will happen. Took me many times to figure out that that was blood on the curtain right there, I suppose. Just kind of looks like a mummy wrapped hanging out of the window when you look at the bottom of the curtain right there, but we all see something different. All right, so Anne is officially dead now. Quite necessary for ending B, both Anne and Laura being dead. So let's continue to go through the motions now, and the motions are fighting an evil possessed doll. And let's see if we finally draw the idol in this run. Remember, if the cursor lights up or boxes over the second statue, there we go, just like that. All right, so we officially have the idol for once, for the first time here in this, I guess, overall Clock Tower walkthrough. So we'll show you how to beat the game with that. Once again, though, we need to discover Cat or Bobby, America's least favorite game show. What's it going to be? Oh, it's Bobby. Alright, so in this case, very easy to lose Bobby here. Just run to the left. Now this is assuming we've already got that board down in place. Otherwise we're trapped here and kind of out of options if we don't already have the rope from the other room. That's the very specific example of when you're kind of out of luck in this situation, as I think Gary touched on. Need to have that rope going into this area, but you can see now somehow magically he got to the left of us. He's chasing us, and this is very satisfying. Just whoop. Just take the board away. So now we can head back in and go through the motions once again. This time the motions being discovering that our father was effectively murdered by the Barrows family here. Specifically Mary. Seems like Simon was an okay guy before he maybe went a little crazy. Again, Fluff is going to come in and share some more context, more background here in a little bit. But yes, if Bobby chased you, unrelated to this room, if he didn't pop out of that box, but we were being chased by Bobby and came out onto this screen outside, we would automatically run left to right if he was chasing us from that side and jump over that gap, and then he would just fall down. So obviously there would be no board there, so we would have to use the rope which is in this room, tie it to that leftmost statue, and climb down. But the very specific instance where you're kind of out of luck is if you can't get to that rope because Bobby pops out of this box right here. That's when, you might need to start over in that case, because I think that might be one of the few no-win situations in this game where you can actually get stuck. It's very rare, very few and far between, but... So now we need to find ourselves the library so that we can learn how to use that idol. It's a much faster way to complete this game when you do draw the idol, because you don't have to worry about the mural room in most of the endings, because you normally have a lot to explain how to work the clock tower for you. Alright, so now here in the music room, you'll see this is a guaranteed Bobby pretty much at this point, since we know we have the idol. Surprise! Look at my shears. What were you hoping to find back there, Jennifer? A staff? No. Just a deranged little 8-year-old boy in his little school uniform. Kind of a pig face. Kind of droopy pig face. Just accurate. So, let's ditch him. I should point out that popping into the cage room is not necessary. You don't need to free the crows. It's just, good karma, I suppose. We could use as much of that as possible in this house of all places. But, yeah, the crows aren't necessary for this ending. Just to mention that. So let's ditch Bobby now. Let's take him somewhere new. Let's take him to the garage. Just for fun. Just to keep it fresh. Should mention, you'll always trip here in the hallway when you're being chased. Not when you're running, as a general rule, but I don't know, something about the extra adrenaline of being chased, even though it's the exact same speed and running animation. I don't know if she puts those feet down harder or something, but she'll trip in that hallway pretty much every time. Number of things happen when you're being chased specifically and running. Chandeliers will fall in the very first foyer. Pop in here for a second. I don't think Miss Mary will show up here when we're being chased by Bobby, actually. You'll also find you can't interact with anything in rooms when you're being chased. I mean, outside of trying to climb something to get to safety, hide under a bed. But yeah, you can't grab any items when you're being chased. Part of why we're kind of stuck upstairs in that room, because we can't pick up that rope if Bobby's chasing us, even if he's not in the room at the time. Just one of the many fun little quirks of this game. Yes, you'll find the chandeliers fall in the main foyer when you're being chased. They'll drop just behind you. They can't crush you, but they'll be right behind you. And if you go upstairs in that first foyer, the floor collapses before you can go any farther to the left, I think, because that actually leads to one of the floors with the elevator. So that's why. That's how they explain away not being able to access that elevator, I suppose. That part of the house. So remembering that Bobby likes to drop in here sometimes. Just waiting for those footsteps to stop. Now let's get out of here before he pops in through the ceiling. Admittedly a calculated risk, but it's just fun to mix it up every now and then. Yeah, the second west wing hallway, so we came through the first floor one and we tripped. That's where I pointed that out. If you run left to right on the second floor west wing hallway, the floor will collapse behind you as you're running across there. I think it's left to right, making that untraversable moving forward. So kind of annoying, actually. You'd have to go downstairs through the hall on this floor to get through that area. But speaking of quirks, and I think I pointed this out before, you see the music just comes on its own right there. There's a lot of creepy things which happen in this house, just kind of randomly sometimes, just to add to the creepy ambiance. Curtains will blow. The TV, I guess we saw that earlier. The TV will come on its own. Blood will drip from the portrait of the twins on the wall. Lots of creepy stuff. But anyway, check this second bookshelf from the left. So this will only show up if you have the idol in your game, this slip of paper, which she finds. It's a pretty obscure tip right here. I'm not sure how she figures out to find the idol. I mean, sure, it says it's on the statue. Okay, check the statues. But to put the idol in that spot in the ceremony room, she apparently already knows what she needs to know based on those 3 sentences. That's the one that I have a hard time wrapping my head around, but I guess she was a lot smarter at 12 than I was. A lot smarter at 12 than I am today, apparently. So now let's go upstairs and check that statue second from the left. We were able to put our cursor on top of it to show that there was something there earlier, but we wouldn't be able to actually interact with it until we read that piece of paper. So now click on it, and an idol is hidden in the statue's bosom. It's cold. Cross protrudes at the bottom, and we picked up the demon idol. So now with idol in hand, we can go straight to the ceremony room, so let's cut ahead. So instead of putting the staff in the vase, this time we're putting the idol in that little dish there in the front. Kind of a chalice. For what it's worth, for those who care, I believe the idol is considered to be more canon between the two. The staff and the idol. The idol appears in one of the subsequent Clock Tower games, so for those who care. Doesn't matter, just makes our job a lot easier, I will say that. No need to go into the mural room, no need to even get the silver key. Shaving off a good 4 or 5 minutes. There's also a couple of endings as we speed this up again, just going through the motions, wearing the cloak and the perfume, or the robe and the perfume. Sneak past the dog. Go talk to Lot one more time, or once again, in this reality here. Taking down Dan again, but there's a couple different endings which are made a lot easier with the idol in your game. I think D and E specifically, because they depend upon you not running into Miss Mary until the very end of the game, and not learning about her either, so. But we'll get to that. And then certainly, if you have the idol, you don't have to worry about going into that phone room and rolling the dice as to whether or not you're going to run into her at all in those cases. Yeah, we'll talk about those. Always satisfying, though, to burn up Dan. But now, as we get to the elevator and slow things down again for this ending, we want to hit the 3rd floor. I promise, class, we will hit the 2nd floor, finally, in the next ending. It's a good ending, too. The ending C, but we'll talk about that once we get there. Same thing once again, though. Bobby, playfully cutting the power, or the lights at least, on the elevator, and then chasing us. But now, for the first time, we will not have a friend lying there or running out to see us, as we've seen them all killed up to this point. Laura first, then Anne out the window, and then Lot down there in the underground area. But we learned from her how to work the clock tower, I suppose, to get Bobby here. And Fluff's gonna, again, give us some insight as to what's happening. I mean, not just right here, but specifically, in the entire game, but also specifically what's happening right here each time we do this. But we get up and we go out to enjoy our ending on our own. And Miss Mary pops out from the shadows. Tap that button right there to give her quite the shock. It's like we're saying, "I will kill you" to her, which is fitting considering we sort of just did in a roundabout way. But there you go, ending B here in Clock Tower. Once again, to give us a quick recap on what it takes to achieve ending B.
Alright, to achieve ending B, it's a bit of a curveball from what I told you to do with endings S and A. Or in other words, we want to see both Laura and Anne die before we get to the end. So if you saw Laura die at the start, look out the window when you hear a scream in the hallway to see Anne fall to her death. Conversely, if you saw Anne die at the start, check the armor in the phone room to confirm that Laura is dead before the end as well. We're never explicitly told how Laura was killed in this timeline. Death by being crammed into a suit of armor, I guess, I don't know. But it's one heck of a place to hide a body, I'll give Miss Mary that. Besides ensuring that both Laura and Anne are dead by the end of the game, remember to explore the hidden room before you run into Mary in the phone room to learn about her evilness. And once again, check on that before you take out Dan and get on the elevator to the 3rd floor to see ending B play out. Don't worry about the crow in this ending, by the way, because as you can see, Jennifer takes care of Mary on her own.
Certainly does, and it's very satisfying. Thank you very much, Blaze. So let's move on now to the Clock Tower ending C walkthrough. And this one is very straightforward because it's exactly the same as ending B, with the sole exception being that you need to get off on the 2nd floor instead of the 3rd floor. So as promised, we're finally going to hit that 2nd floor button in the elevator once we get to it. And I guess just to mix things up a bit as well, let's see Anne die first this time. Actually, one more difference, for what it's worth, you don't need to see both Anne and Laura die. It's not necessary, it doesn't affect it one way or the other, for what it's worth. It's actually kind of lazy, and I'll talk about that once we get to the ending, but just to point that out. But now skipping the bathroom, and instead coming to the 2nd foyer, the game always starts out very dramatically. Bobby, very slowly as well, coming down with those giant garden shears through the stained glass ceiling there. Yeah, the game always starts out with a gruesome murder, no matter which way you go, as we're going to hide underneath the bed, since we've taken care of that parrot. Yeah, whether you pop in the bathroom to see Laura dead, go to the left into the foyer to see Anne killed through that stained glass ceiling. And the third option, which we haven't really shown yet, because it's just not as efficient in my experience, but yeah, if you go through the sunken kind of hallway in the first area, straight from that first foyer, you can pick up a sharp rock and cut through the hole in the wall. That'll take you to the courtyard on the right side, where that shed is and everything. There's actually a pool, and you can walk by and see Anne die, or drown. I say it like it's like it's an attraction at an amusement park or something, but no, it's quite sad for her. And she gets pool stabbed or drowned. You know, I think Blaze described it as one or the other, or maybe both, as Jennifer just kind of coldly watches her struggle and drown and or get killed in the pool. Thinking, does screaming your name over and over again, does that do anything? Does that help? And then Bobby pops out. What a strange transformation which happens beneath the water. It's the mystery of the pool. Then you can fight him and then just go back to the right and hide from him in your location of choice. But that's how we can see Anne die. An alternative way of seeing Anne die early on, just like the alternative way of confirming Laura's dead is checking that armor in the phone room if Anne died first. And while we're talking about additional Anne content, if you do happen to look out the window when you hear that scream and you see her get knocked out of that second floor window there, then if you go up to that room, which is one room to the right of the children's room where we find that ceremony room key, you'll find a lantern on the desk, which presumably was Anne's. And if you pick that up, you can also see, if you go over to the right, the broken window. So Anne was up here. She was forced out, pushed out, stabbed out. Insert your own verbiage there. Red blotch all over the desk. Wonder what that could be. But yes, we can use the lantern in the library in the hole on the left wall to light it up and find ourselves a copper key, which can be used to escape from the cell in the shed, which in my mind is completely unnecessary because Lot rescues us from that cell if we're trapped in there. The only difference is you need to make sure you go to the mural room and learn about the clock tower on your own, since Lot's not going to be there to tell you about it in the end. But for what it's worth, we can use that key to escape from the cell if you happen to have it. But you still need to feed Mr. Barrows before you can sneak by. Can't just use the key to escape, unfortunately. Doesn't make any sense, but yeah, literally can't hover that key over and find the spot until we've interacted with Mr. Barrows and either fed him some meat or just, been killed and cannibalized by this man. It's a dark game, class. Have you caught on to that by now? But anyway, as we continue on with ending C, again, same as ending B, no difference. Just don't really need to worry about seeing both girls being killed because we're getting off on that second floor, and you'll see once we get there. But as we continue along, let's bring in Fluff to share his first Fluff fact of the day about Clock Tower. Fluff, what do you got?
Clock Tower is a 1995 Super Famicom title from developer and publisher Human Entertainment, a company founded in 1983 and which developed a number of games for the NES, SNES, PlayStation, and other consoles and systems before declaring bankruptcy and dissolving in 2000. In that time, they developed dozens of titles, a few for the NES, which include Pro Wrestling, Baseball Stars, Monster Party, and Adventures of Gilligan's Island. Many gamers know them best for their work in the still relatively new at the time genre in gaming that is horror, in the Twilight Syndrome series, and of course the Clock Tower series. The director on the first two titles in the Clock Tower series, Ifumi Kono, had to appeal to the powers that be at Human Entertainment to allow them to try to make an original title, rather than the sports titles they largely focused on due to the company viewing it as a reliable strategy given the built-in audience. Management agreed to the idea, holding a competition where employees could submit ideas for original titles with the winning pick going into production. Kono's proposals won the competition, and the game which would become Clock Tower officially went into development, albeit with a relatively small production team and budget. Kono has recalled that his idea of the protagonist and Jennifer being unable to fight back was unpopular amongst the rest of the development team, but his vision ultimately won out. Kono cited the horror films of Italian director Dario Argento as the major inspiration behind the series, particularly Argento's 1985 horror film Phenomena. You were spot on, Professor, when you mused that Jennifer Connelly was an inspiration for our protagonist, Jennifer, as the American actress starred in the influential film, even being 14 years old at the time of filming, just like our Jennifer. The film also features a murder house, as well as a violent mother who is protective of her troubled son, who also has a deformed face and likes to slash his victims with blades including scissors. Sound familiar? I will acknowledge that Phenomena is set in Switzerland, whereas Clock Tower is set in Norway, though, and Scissorman was also inspired by the killer from the 1981 horror film The Burning, a man who gets burned horribly after a prank and stalks his victims seeking vengeance with garden shears.
Yeah, a lot of that sounds familiar. Thank you very much, Fluff. A lot of set pieces taken straight from various horror films. Anyone recognize any of those even before Fluff talked about them, class? But as promised, we are taking the second floor this time. You'll see, if you try that first floor, nothing happens. Don't need to worry about the crows either. This is an exciting one here at the end. We already know about Mary's evilness. That's part of this ending as well. I established that because in subsequent endings, you'll see. But for right now, we know that she's evil. Miss Mary. Jennifer. You've been a terrible daughter. Have I? Oh, right, we did kill Dan. We did kill your son. Alright, I guess that's fair. So be ready to smash that action button here, the panic button. Give her a nice little shove. Be nice if she could have fallen on that dagger there, but That's fine, but now we're in a lot more control here in Ending C than we are in most of the endings in this game. So quickly run to the left, go through either of these openings. They both lead to the same area. Run to the left here and click on the ladder. You have to click a bit higher up than you would expect. The target area is way up there, which is kind of sneaky. Against the backdrop of the lightning storm, it's just perfect. And then one more time, be ready to smash that panic button, class. She grabs onto your ankle. Pretty great. Pretty great. Miss Mary falls to her death as we head inside and in kind of reverse order. I'm not sure how he gets around like that. Maybe Fluff can shed some light on that a little bit later, but operate the clock tower thanks to Lot. What she told us. Down Bobby goes. So there we go, a little out of order, but we took down all 3 members of the Barrows clan, all 3 evil members. I think Simon Barrows, the patriarch of the family, he's just a little cuckoo bananas from being kept in that cell for so long. Who knows how long, honestly. But I mentioned this at the start of this ending, but it's kind of lazy how we didn't see Laura die. We only saw Anne die, so in the logic of this game, Laura should still be alive, and yet she doesn't show up here anywhere. So it really doesn't matter either way if you see them both die or not in this ending. But that's how it plays out. But yeah, a little lazy if I'm honest, a little lazy. But anyway, now with our recap on how to achieve Ending C, let's go back to Blaze.
As the professor alluded to, this one in Ending C is a lot easier for me to explain. Just basically do everything you did for Ending B, but take the elevator to the 2nd floor instead of the 3rd floor. This means exploring the hidden room to learn about Mary's evilness before you potentially run into her in the phone room, and checking on Lot before you take out Dan and jump on the elevator. This might be the most epic of all the endings though, as not only do we get to take out Scissorman as we always have so far, but we overpower Mary not once but twice, the latter time leading to her very satisfying death.
Probably the most satisfying. Thank you very much, Blaze. The latter part, I like that. Good alliteration, but let's move on now to Clock Tower Ending D's walkthrough. So I kind of hinted at this earlier. This is the first ending where we need to make it all the way to the end of the game without discovering that Miss Mary is evil. So that means that we cannot go into that northeastmost room to find our father and the note which he left behind, and we can't run into her in the phone room, because if we do, as we saw in Ending A, she'll drug us, and that's how we'll find out that she's evil, obviously. So with that in mind, this and Ending E as well, as we'll talk about once we get to it, these are the 2 trickiest to achieve, because it's basically a coin flip if you get the staff in your game. It's a coin flip as to whether or not you'll run into Miss Mary, because you're forced into going into that phone room in the case of the staff. And Blaze will mention this, but it's a good idea if you get the idol in your game and you're going for all of the endings. If you draw the idol, then that's when you should go for endings D as well as E, which again, we'll talk about that once we get to E. But yeah, the idol is best for these 2 endings because you don't have to go into the phone room in that case. You can skip it altogether, and it just makes achieving those 2 endings a lot easier. But anyway, let's speed this up. That is the requisite though. Nothing else matters in terms of saving any crows, or doesn't matter who you see, dead or alive, in terms of Laura or Anne. There's no variation here, as you'll find out once we get to these endings. We'll still want to see a lot to learn about the clock tower, but other than that, yeah, just, I guess follow along. And let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Clock Tower.
Clock Tower was a minor success upon its 1995 release for the Super Famicom in Japan, and despite some criticism with regards to the tedious quality some found with its puzzles and exploration, the game was relatively well received and is regarded as being influential in subsequent titles of the horror genre. it was successful enough to warrant a direct sequel in 1996's same-named Clock Tower. Somewhat annoying that it's the same name, but this one was released for the PlayStation worldwide. Ifumi Kono initially wasn't interested in developing a sequel, but became inspired after seeing the visual and technical potential of the next generation of consoles like the PlayStation. He was also inspired by the quality of 1996's smash horror hit Resident Evil, which motivated him and his team to work harder in creating a game which could compete with that classic. Kono has credited the success of Resident Evil in boosting the profile of the horror genre on console gaming, and with it the sales of 1996's 3D Clock Tower, which was finally released 9 months following Resident Evil. For those not familiar, 1996's Clock Tower continues the story of Jennifer and, spoiler alert, the return of a Scissorman at least. For that reason, in case you were curious, any of the endings of A, B, or C are considered canonical, as, according to that game, Jennifer was the sole survivor of her friends. A third title named Clock Tower 2, The Struggle Within, was released in 1998 also for the PlayStation, but Kono had no involvement, and it's more of a spin-off, dealing with none of the characters and issues of this series. Aside from enhanced and updated ports, one final title in Clock Tower 3 was released in 2002 after Human Entertainment was dissolved and the property was acquired by Sunsoft. Ironically, Capcom, the developers of the Resident Evil series, co-produced this title with Sunsoft, which was released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. The game significantly underperformed their projected sales, so the series has largely laid dormant ever since. Kono has since formed his own company under the moniker Nude Maker Co. Limited, and has been contracted by many other publishers like Capcom, Sega, and Konami to create a handful of titles across a variety of platforms to date.
Thank you, Fluff. Yeah, the mid-90s were a good time for console horror gaming. As we finally get to the elevator here, toward the end of achieving ending D. So for ending D, once you get on the elevator... By the way, they always instill a sense of urgency as it seems like the house is about to crumble down on top of you. You can leave it on for hours on end. Nothing will happen, for what it's worth. Not to take the drama out of that moment too much, but... So for here in ending D, after we learn about the clock tower from Lot, but otherwise never learn that Mary's evil, hit that second floor button. Go to the right here, off the elevator, and then somehow it... I don't know how the perspective shifts, but now we come out on the right side, going left. And we remember this exchange from ending C here. Who? Miss Mary. But remember, we don't know that she's got bad vibes, class. So, we trust her. She's an adult. Why wouldn't you? We're 12 years old. And then she just stabs us in the face. Very anticlimactic, very underwhelming in a sense, but honestly, I don't hate this ending because it's realistic, you know? In the context of all this craziness and violence around us, of course we're going to go to and trust an adult, but in this case, this is the last person that we should be trusting. We just don't know it, so. And one of the few endings where you just get the black background when you get the credits, but Blaze, how about you give us a quick recap of how to achieve ending D here in Clock Tower?
Ending D is one of the most difficult to achieve here in Clock Tower because it requires you to both avoid learning about Mary's evilness by basically staying away from the hidden room, as well as not running into her in the phone room. That essentially means that if your game features the staff instead of the idol to reach the caverns beneath the mansion, you have a 50-50 chance of not getting this ending because you're forced to enter that phone room to get the silver key to learn how to use the staff. I think the professor mentioned this, but if you run into Mary and she drugs you, even if you get killed in the shed by Mr. Barrows, the game will continue on in that shed once again. This is why I recommend that if you're trying to achieve all the endings in this game, that you focus on one of the other endings if your game features the staff. On the other hand, if your game features the idol, then focus on this ending in ending D, or ending E come to think of it, as they're very similar, but we'll talk about that in a bit. That's all there is to it though. Get to the end of the game without learning that Mary's evil, then take the elevator to the second floor, remembering to check in on lot first for ending D, the first ending in which Jennifer sadly, but understandably, doesn't survive.
Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, that's an important reminder that, yes, if you run into Miss Mary and get drugged and thrown into that shed, that's your checkpoint, essentially. If you get killed by Mr. Barrows, you're still locked in that shed, so there's no way to go back. Which is why, as Blaze mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, the idol is the best option for achieving ending D, as well as ending E, as we'll cover in just a second. I don't think you're going to be too surprised when we cover how to achieve that ending. By the way, just a nitpick which just jumped into my head, but when I think about discovering Miss Mary's evilness, we keep coming back to that word, by way of being drugged, and then escaping that shed, you might be curious, and we've ran over this game with a fine-tooth comb. Just every possible scenario, but if you go up to that northeast room, in case you were curious, after you get drugged and you escape and learn that she's evil, if you go up there after that, the room is still sealed, but once you open it up for, seemingly the first time in years, the room is miraculously cleared out. There's no evidence. Your father's body's been moved in that case. It's just really got to suspend your disbelief with a lot of aspects of this game, but still a good time as we move on now to the Clock Tower ending E walkthrough. So this is the exact same thing as ending D. Once again, can't run into Miss Mary until the very end of the game. The only difference this time is we're going to hit the third floor on the elevator, as opposed to the second floor. Very similar to how endings B and C go together, D and E work as a pair with that one subtle difference of which floor you get off on, but it's kind of frustrating and confusing that for ending B, it was the third floor, ending C, it's the second floor. You kind of like those to be the other way around. And then ending D, it's the second floor, and ending E, it's the third floor. So it's just hard to keep them straight when otherwise it's the exact same method up to that point. That's the only difference in those endings. But anyway, as we speed this up, once again, hopefully we'll get the idol this time to make things a little bit easier so we don't have to roll the dice with that phone room. We got lucky last time. Let's bring in Fluff to maybe give us some context, some background. Now that we've established, experienced a lot of this game, we know a lot of the backstory. Here's Fluff to give us even more, to maybe answer a couple questions here and there for us. Fluff, how about it?
Now that we've seen most of the main endings and have met all the members of the Barrows family, I thought I'd do a little recap and provide some additional context as to just what the heck is going on here in Clock Tower. The professor has mentioned or alluded to some of this, but let's wind the clock back a bit, if you'll forgive the pun, in talking a bit about the Barrows family and their history based on what we learned from this game and subsequent games, as well as literature based on the games. If you plan on reading the novelization or playing some of the other games, I guess be aware that there will be some spoilers here. The Barrows go back hundreds of years, notably beginning with Theodore Barrows, the first lord of the Barrows family, who built the family castle in England, one of the sites of the sequel to this game. Theodore feared death and began to worship the god of a demonic cult known as the Great Father. Theodore believed that by performing ritualistic sacrifices on children he abducted as offerings to the Great Father, he would be granted immortality. Unsurprisingly, this resulted in a curse on the Barrows family, which manifested with each generation of Barrows bearing a demonic child who would continue the massacre Theodore had started years before. And wouldn't you know, Theodore ended up dying anyway, so there you go. Generations later, Quentin Barrows had a son named John Barrows, one such demon child who was the first to take up the scissors. Known as the first Scissorman in the lore, John Barrows killed children in northern England near their family castle. Understandably disapproving of this, Quentin killed his son to put an end to the massacre, but was labeled a traitor by the rest of his household and family, who I guess were down with murdering kids. Quentin was later assassinated by other followers of the Great Father's cult, and in the aftermath, there was a power struggle in the Barrows family between those who supported the Great Father and those who didn't. This brings us up to the 20th century, when the Barrows were chased from their castle during a peasant uprising and relocated to Norway, where this game takes place. Supposedly, the curse was dormant for decades until Simon Barrows, the patriarch of the family in this game, sensed that the curse was returning. It's unclear as to whether he fathered the twins and Bobby and Dan with Mary, or if a demon put him in her. But Simon resolved to fight the curse, firing the entire work staff of the mansion for their own protection. As we discover, Jennifer's father helps deliver the twins, but upon realizing that they're demons with the whole biting off his hand thing, and I suppose expressing his opinion that maybe they should be put down, well, Mary, she had him sealed up in a room until his death 3 days later. Jennifer's mother seemingly didn't want much to do with her, giving up custody of Jennifer and going to shack up with another man before purportedly dying herself not too long after Jennifer's father dies. Regardless, Jennifer went to the Granite Orphanage. After the birth of the cursed twins, Mary became involved in black magic, intent on performing sacrifices on children like Jennifer and her friends to ensure Bobby and Dan survived. Simon attempted and failed to stop his wife, who imprisoned him in the shed as punishment, where it seems he lost his sanity over a number of years, much to her delight according to series creator Ifumi Kono. Despite growing in size, seemingly at the rate of a normal child, Bobby is immoral due to the ritual which prevents time from passing normally in the Barrows mansion, meaning as long as he stays in the mansion, he can't be killed. This is the same ritual which Jennifer disrupts by way of starting the titular clock tower in endings S through C, which finally seemingly causes Bobby to succumb to the deformities he was born with. I'm not sure why Dan is able to be killed by burning him before we disrupt the ritual, but at the very least, Kono has confirmed that Dan's monstrous size is owed to all of his orphan feasting. And to answer a long nagging issue the professor's brought up many times, apparently Dan's abilities allow for Bobby's warps. So there you go. We good with all that?
I guess so. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, we'll just say, Dan's magical. That's why Bobby can warp around at will. As we hit the third floor here in ending E, and this is where it gets especially lame, because, again, one of the main requisites of this ending was not finding out that Miss Mary's evil ahead of time, but we don't even run into her in this ending. We already know that Scissorman is evil, obviously. His name's Scissorman. We never even get a chance to run into Miss Mary, so this is one of the lamest endings, but anyway, yeah, just he pops down, and for whatever reason, even though we've taken that third floor elevator trip many times before without issue, something about this ending, not learning that she's evil, triggers that response there, but that is ending E. So once again, with a quick recap of ending E, let's bring back in Blaze.
Alright, I hinted at this when covering ending D, but ending E is very similar in terms of what you need to do to achieve it. Basically, just get to the end of the game without ever learning that Mary is evil or running into her. Again, this is easier with the idol than the staff, as you can avoid the phone room entirely, but check on a lot before you take out Dan, then take that elevator this time to the third floor to watch ending E play out.
Lame as it is, thank you very much, Blaze. Alright, so if you thought that was bad, not to get all South Park lampooning Family Guy there, but moving on to ending F now. And in the course of playing this game, you may stumble on ending F many times and not quite figured out why. You get to the end of the game, and ending F plays out the way it does. The only real requisite for getting ending F, aside from getting down to the underground area, as always getting past the guard dog, is that we never learn about the clock tower, which means we never go to the mural room and read about it, and we never find out about it from Lot going over to where she's dying down there in the underground area surrounded by those candles. Otherwise, I don't think it really matters what you do, what sort of events happen in between that. Just never find out the significance of the clock tower, essentially. That's the main requisite. And while we're going through this one, getting to the end, let's just show some fun bonus stuff we haven't covered yet. For instance, if you go into the northwestmost room in the mansion on that second floor, you'll find a sort of hunting trophy room. And if you check the closet on the far left side, before you do anything else in the room, you won't find anything. But if you go over and interact with the only specimen, which you can, sort of a jar with a brain in it or something, I don't know. But you break it, and you get a kind of shocking close-up of whatever that is, or was, in the glass container. Then if you leave that room, come back in and check that closet on the left again, unaccountably, all of a sudden we see a sort of decayed corpse, or a mummified corpse, I guess better said, in that closet, which is pretty shocking as well. Not related to anything, doesn't affect any endings, just some fun bonus content, for lack of a better, here in Clock Tower. I guess more of those victims which Miss Mary has lured in and murdered, chopped up, experimented on, fed to Dan, however you want to think of it. But also worth mentioning, didn't mention this as part of Ending C, but if you get off that elevator on the second floor, you overpower Miss Mary. Normally you're meant to go to the left where you climb that ladder and the ending plays out, but if you go to the right instead after knocking her down, so we're showing you one of our many outtakes from Ending C here. Some of the blooper reel, just having some fun. You gotta bring a little levity to this very dark game sometimes. But if you go to the right instead, and I misspoke earlier saying that the elevator floor 1 would have let you off here. This is still floor 2. But if you try going to the right, you'll see the floor gives out, so you're trapped into going back to the left. Similar as if you try to approach that same area from the right side at the start of the game, or any point of the game. Gives way. What kind of a flimsy house did you bring us to, Miss Mary? What kind of a flimsy murder mansion did you trap us in? Take the orphanage over this. Cruel or no? This stuff never happened back at the orphanage. But as we slow things down now, you'll see Ending F, if you operate the elevator without ever learning about the clock tower from lots, so we never went over to the right. We never read about it in the mural room. If you get on the elevator with those circumstances, instant death. Lame as it is. Doesn't really make any sense. Not sure what that little animation was, that brief sprite of like an explosion or something. But clearly Scissorman got to us there. Cameraman couldn't even be bothered to jump in there and give us the shot. But, yeah. Blaze, recap?
Alright, remember how I keep reminding you to check in on Lot before you take out Dan and get on the elevator? Or in the case of Ending A, to learn about the clock tower from that one room when Lot's not there to tell you about it? Well, this time we're going to skip checking on Lot after we sneak past the guard dog. We're also going to skip learning about the clock tower from the book in the mural room. Otherwise, just get near the end of the game anyway, like you always do, take out Dan, and then get on the elevator for my award recipient for the lamest ending in the game here in Clock Tower, in Ending F.
Yeah, I don't understand why they couldn't just automatically have us getting off on the third floor, climbing the ladder, and then when we don't know what to do with the clock tower, just have Bobby catch up to us and stab us, and then do his little dance. His little victory stabbing dance that he likes to do. I guess they didn't want to take away the option of us being able to choose our floor, so this was their solution to that, but yeah, I don't disagree with this being the lamest ending in the game. Leave a comment, class, even though we have 2 more to go, but what's been your favorite? What is your least favorite when all is said and done? But let's show you the final 2 now, and these are gratifyingly short and sweet compared to everything which went into getting the preceding, I guess, 7 endings to this point. So let's now move on to the Clock Tower Ending G walkthrough. There's one of those random happenings right there, the wind blowing through the window there. It's nice, it catches you off guard sometimes. Do recommend playing this game with a headset as opposed to speakers, playing it in the dark, just getting the conditions just right. So in this particular ending for Ending G, we need to witness both murders of Anne and Laura. So it's a bit more efficient to keep it on the first floor here rather than going upstairs. We don't need to grab the perfume. We don't need to grab the black robe. So let's see Laura's death first, and then we'll go hide underneath the bed. Get rid of Scissorman. It's just always a little bit of play in terms of when he starts coming at you and when you regain control of Jennifer. After he makes his introduction there in the bathroom. But since we already got that West Wing key, let's just open up the door here, wait for the scream. Look out the window to confirm that Anne is dead as well. And now that both of our friends are dead, don't worry about Lot. We're going to go to the garage, all the way to the left on the first floor. And check the box just behind the trunk here, and you'll find the key to the car. And now go into your inventory, and this actually does show up the car key, one of the few keys which shows up. Use it on the car. Yes, we can. I agree. That's kind of what I had in mind. But I don't have my driver's license yet. It wouldn't be right. Oh, right, the others. Well, we already saw Laura and Anne dead. So it's more the other at this point, and you know what? Forget Lot. I think you should use the car and drive to safety, like you just said. You have to do this 3 times in a row before she'll finally do it. 3rd time's the charm. Very nice. Nice stereo sound right there. And roll the credits. There is a bit of a stinger with this one, in more ways than one, but did I spoil that one? Anyway, let's bring in Blaze to give us the recap, although don't know that it's very necessary considering the brevity of this one, but just the same, Blaze?
Alright, we're getting to the last couple of endings, and although this one is depressing and pretty lazy if I'm honest, with Jennifer escaping but still getting killed, just cuz, at least it's something different. To achieve ending G, ensure that both Laura and Anne die, so just a refresher, if you see Laura dead in the bathroom, look out the window in the hallway after hearing a scream to see Anne fall to her death. If you saw Anne die in the pool, check the armor in the phone room, hopefully avoiding Miss Mary as that. You know what? Don't even bother trying to see Anne die first in the pool, as it just takes too long, and part of the beauty of ending G is that it's a quick and easy to get ending. So just go see Laura in the bathroom at the start, go to the hallway, and look when you hear a scream, then go straight to the garage. Find the key like the professor showed, then click it on the car 3 times to finally allow Jennifer's self-preservation instincts to kick in, and enjoy the cop-out of an ending that is ending G.
There you go. I think we both spoiled that one, and so Jennifer returned to the orphanage and got adopted by non-murdery parents. Oh, she was discovered in her room 3 days later. Having a party? Dead. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. Well, I can understand why Blaze calls that bit of a cop-out there. That's how I would describe it as well. All right, one final ending, not too dissimilar from ending G there, but ending H, the last one. For the last time, let's quick start. As we do the Clock Tower ending H walkthrough, this is the one for the speedrunners out there watching. It's my favorite in some ways for that reason. Don't even need to speed this one up. This one's plenty fast as it is. From the start, go to the left as usual. So in this ending, we only want to see one of our 2 friends die. Maybe want isn't the right word. But we only need to see one of our friends die, or better said, we should only see one of our friends die. Obviously, we saw both of them die and we got ending G. But once again, we're going to make our escape in the car, or attempt to. And let's just, for sentimentality's sake, one last time see Laura die here. And then we'll take Scissorman to the garage, try to ditch him there. Just because it's going to make me laugh, as you will see. I'll give my reasoning for that, but once we get there, one last entrance. Good for you, Scissorman. An observation I've noticed as we head to the garage. I played this probably a little over 12 times. You might say 13 times. A little over 12. Just to get all the footage, to get all the endings, all that good stuff. And in that time, I have to say, probably 75% of the time, I got the staff over the idol, which is ironic because, again, the idol is kind of more canon, if you will, with subsequent titles, or one subsequent title in the franchise. But Yeah, most of the time they steered you towards using that staff for whatever reason. You'd think it'd be a 50-50 split, but it didn't bear out that way. I'd say I got the key in the bedroom probably 60% of the time to the 40% that it was in the bird's nest. Just random observations from running Clock Tower again and again and again and again. But anyway, one last time, because again, we can't grab the key while we're being chased, can't grab any items while we're being chased. Yeah, most of the time he doesn't come up the ladder. Only about half the time would he come in through the ceiling. Just so many randoms. Just as random as where he resets or chooses to reset each time. And there he goes. So again, I don't recommend hiding up here necessarily because there is that chance, as Gary mentioned, of him coming up. But alright, so we physically watched him walk out of the room to the right. Now let's grab the key. Why am I pointing out that we physically saw him walk off the screen to the right? Well, this is a key. A car key. Best kind of key when you're being otherwise trapped in a murder house. Once again, they'll go through the standard guilting Jennifer here a couple times before she triples down on her lack of concern for the other remaining girls. This time there are others. In this universe, there's still Anne and Lot. But we got to think about number one, Jennifer Connelly, which I'm glad Fluff mentioned that. Makes a lot more sense now that it's so very clearly modeled after her from that film. But here we go. Making a clean break this time. But of course, there are no clean breaks here in Clock Tower. You know, we've shown the credits, 8 times already? I think we can jump ahead this time. At the end of the credits, get a nice unique shot right here. And, oh no. The magic of Scissorman. Alright, Blaze, one last quick recap if you don't mind.
Alright, the final ending to cover here in Clock Tower and Ending H is the fastest and easiest to achieve. First, watch either Laura or Anne die, then ditch Scissorman with your Gary recommended method of choice. I personally like the irony of the way the professor did it, as we get to watch Scissorman physically leave the garage, but he still manages to magically teleport into the back seat of the car. I guess he had some extra time on his hands at only killing one of our friends, so he could hitch a ride with us versus ending G where he's not in the car. I don't know, but there is your final ending here in Clock Tower. Whew.
Yeah, I wonder about that myself. Ending H when only one of our friends dies, he sneaks into the car, even though he was off the screen, but Fluff covered that. Ending G when both of our friends die, we get away unscathed, at least for a couple days. I guess that extra murder tuckered the little guy out, and he needed to rest up before he was ready to murder again, but anyway. Thank you very much, Blaze. Excellent work today. Excellent work to all my TAs. Gary with the tips on dealing with Scissorman and his strange, quirky behavior, and Fluff with the background on this game, the context for the story itself. Quite fascinating, actually, but there you go. That concludes our All Endings Clock Tower walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. By the way, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll into Video Games 101. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Which of these was your favorite ending? If you want to rank the endings, be curious to see your ordering, letter-wise from best to worst or vice versa. I got a soft spot for C for the reasons we mentioned before, but I think have to agree S is the best ending with, wow, 2 of us surviving. But that's our time and then some this week. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.